Years ago, we used to say that the British police force was the envy of the world. When I was a kid, adults used to say, if you get lost, ask a policeman and he'll make sure you're safe. Years ago, we also used to watch all the cop shows. If you remember Kojak, Cagney and Lacey, Starsky and Hutch, maybe I'm showing my age a bit, but anyway, cop shows are still very popular today. And it's amazing how many police officers were first inspired to join up after watching them on the telly. The point is, British police officers still remain largely unarmed, which is staggering to coppers in other countries, like the USA, for example. But interestingly, gun crime is relatively low in the UK compared to many other countries. Is that correlation or causation? I'm not quite sure. In fact, I might ask a police officer about that in another episode. And if you want to ask the police some questions, please, let's not be silly. Let's make them sensible. Leave a comment in the chat below and we'll see if we can find a friendly police officer to discuss the subject. But the thing is, our cops are trained to run towards the kinds of dangers that the rest of us would run away from in a panic. So it takes a special kind of person to be a police officer these days. Yet we take every opportunity to criticize the very people who we would expect to be there during our darkest hour. Have a scroll through YouTube or TikTok. Not right now, but a bit later on. But you'll find countless of video clips of people catching the police out or on what they should be doing and what they shouldn't be doing, their knowledge of the law and all that kind of stuff. Imagine you were at work. Let's say you're a painter and decorator or something like that. You were painting the outside of someone's house. It's cold. You just found out you won't get paid as much as you thought you were going to. You're hungry, you're knackered, and someone comes up behind you and starts filming and says, have you done an undercoat? I wouldn't have gone for that colour, mate. Is that the right brush you're using? Don't they teach you anything at decorating school? Why aren't you painting the woodwork first, you pillock? Now look what you've done. You've got a spot of paint on me. I'll see you in court. It would be, let's say, a bit exasperating, wouldn't it? But we're seeing a lot of the police on our social media feeds, aren't we? We're also seeing a lot of hit pieces in the news and the rest of the mainstream media. And seldom is it positive news, if BBC Panorama is anything to go by. Is the police service made up of power-mad psychopaths? Do we have a two-tier police force? Is the police institutionally racist, misogynistic or homophobic? What does the term institutionally anything actually mean? More importantly, does the media reflect the police accurately, or is there some kind of hidden agenda? Who wants to see our police forces fail? Why don't we get behind our cops and support them more? Because you can bet your bottom dollar we will one day expect them to be supporting us in our hour of need. Now, am I blindly supportive of the police? No, not really. I really can't stand arrogance, bullies or abuses of power. And any police officer who exhibits this should be held bang to rights. I think that's only fair. But, and this is a big but, we all need police officers. We need the men and the women. We need the community support officers. We need the detectives and we need the traffic cops. Funnily enough, we don't want to see the traffic cops when we're speeding, but we do want them to be there to pull us out of a burning wreck after we've driven like a pillock. Most of these officers start their careers with the highest of intentions. When I ask them why they signed up in the first place, the answer is usually because they want to make a difference or they just want to help people. Not one has said, because I love stamping on people's heads. Now, I can say all this because I worked at the Met for 3.5 years. It's not that long in police terms, and I wasn't undercover, I might add, but as a contractor during a time when loads of changes were taking place at the Metropolitan Police. note to big organisations, please try to stagger your transformation projects as much as you can. If you do everything all at once, it all gets a bit crunchy. But anyway, when I was there, the scathing Baroness Casey report had just landed, saying that the Met was institutionally racist, misogynistic and homophobic. The bottom line reasons for its failure amounted to two main areas. The first was money and lack of it and how it was being managed. And the second was poor leadership in the upper echelons of the organisations. In fact, this is exactly what the average frontline copper would have said, which basically could have saved about £355,000 that the Casey Review cost to create. That's a lot of money spent on discovering that you don't have much money. But the review was a hard criticism to swallow for the organisation. The trouble is, it takes a lot of time, effort and money to change an institution. And the Metropolitan Police, thank you, with its 46,000 employees is massive. I think it's the biggest organisation in London by a head count. But that's just the Met. There are currently 48 police forces in the UK, with about 150,000 police officers across the country. That's about one cop for every 466 people in the UK. The Met, by far the largest, accounts for 25%, that's a quarter, of the total police in the country. So that's how many we have, both men and women, plus you can add a few thousand police staff to all that, all working to keep you safe. Or that's what they say. But here's the thing. It's getting harder to recruit good quality people into the police. The more the police is slagged off and embarrassed, the worse their reputation becomes and the harder it is for them to attract good people, which could lead to lower quality people joining, although this would never be admitted. But could this mean that poor media coverage of the police is a self-fulfilling prophecy? We tend to only see the uniform and forget there's a human being underneath the hat with the checkered hat band. They have families too, you know. They have partners, they have worries over their kids' schooling. They sometimes skip lunch because of work pressures. They get scared. They like a good laugh. They have emotions. They cry. They get pissed off with their bosses. They suffer from trauma. They sometimes forget what the rules were in the heat of the moment. Then they get a phone camera shoved up their nose when they make a mistake. So, although I fully believe that our police should be held to account, let's face it, anyone providing a shoddy service should be held to account, but I think it's about time we pitch in a bit and gave our police force the support they deserve. Now, that's hard when we've all been conditioned into thinking they're all bar stewards. But most of them started this job because they thought it was a noble calling to help society. Okay, maybe some of them like the power of the uniform, I'll give you that. But the majority that I've spoken to really like the buzz of catching bad guys and making society a better place. But it seems that society is intent on kicking them in the nuts in return. So, welcome to this series of In the Know, where I'll be interviewing serving and retired officers and asking them what it's like to be a copper. Are police officers all power mad? Have the police got better or worse over time? What do police officers say about the two-tier policing accusation? How do you get to be a police officer and what's the training like? How does a police officer cope with traumatic experiences? And many other questions, and some of which you might like to ask. So just comment below and leave your sensible topic questions or suggestions, like and subscribe to make sure you see future episodes where your questions may be answered all about the police. Because let's face it, the police matters to all of us. And that's why we called this section Police Matters. Thanks so much. See you in the next episode.